Hi, we're not on the range today, so you might have to put up with all kinds of noise in the background, but hopefully none of it will be gunfire. Now, recently someone suggested that I watch Sylvester Stallone's new Rambo movie and do a review of it, so here we are, but this comes with 5 caveats. First, don't expect movie reviews to be something we do very often. This will be a very rare occurrence. Secondly, what you're watching today is in addition to the normal weekly presentation, not instead of. So before you send me any hate mail about being ripped off, this is an extra. 3, I'm going to try to not give away any crucial plot points. But 4, everything I say today is from the standpoint that you have seen the first 4 Rambo movies. And I know they all have titles, but I'm going to refer to them as Rambo 1 through 4, just to keep the order in order. And 5, I took a couple of the crew with me, and it cost me movie tickets and pizza, but I wanted to get some perspective other than my own. And even though I did get input from them, really all I'm going to say today are my observations and my opinions, and I make no claim that my opinions have their origin in cinematic genius. Now, all that having been said, let's get started. The basic plot of the film is that at the end of Rambo 4, Rambo makes his way back to his ancestral home in Arizona. So at the beginning of Rambo 5, that's where he is. And he's got underground weapons caches and he's dug some tunnels on the property, but he's trying to maintain a semblance of normal life working training horses. And then a relative of his gets in trouble with a criminal gang from across the border in Mexico. He comes to the aid of that relative, and some drama and action ensues. Now, there were a few things I really liked about the movie. First, it's not just an hour and 41 minutes of the blood and guts routine. It is Sylvester Stallone doing some real acting, what I thought was very good acting. Secondly, the idea of coming to the aid of a relative. Well, a while ago, Liam Neeson did a film entitled Taken, where he portrayed some former secret agent whose daughter is kidnapped and she's going to be forced into prostitution. But before she can be assaulted or drugged or sexually assaulted, he comes to the rescue and she's rescued with her virtue intact. As if. In this Rambo movie, the relative that he's trying to aid ends up getting hurt very badly, and it adds a degree of believability to the film. Now, another thing I liked is that in films like this, you typically have a protagonist and then a chief antagonist with a whole bunch of henchmen, and you have some kind of climax where the henchmen all get wiped out, and then there's ridiculously drawn-out fight scene between your main protagonist and your main antagonist. In this film, it was not ridiculously drawn out. They got right to the point. And another thing I liked about the film is that it had a genuine ending. It did not preclude there being a Rambo 6, but it had a real ending. Now, when you watch the ending, there might come a point where you say, wait a minute, did he or didn't he? If you pay attention, the answer to that question becomes obvious. Now, things I didn't like about the film were, first, any film like this, you have a main antagonist and then a number of henchmen that are unbelievably high in number and unbelievably high in their level of motivation and dedication and loyalty to the chief antagonist. And this film was no exception. That whole thing was just over the top. Also, although we liked the Rambo improvised booby trap kind of thing, again, this movie was just over the top with that kind of stuff. To coin a phrase, it was booby trappy happy. And although in a Rambo film you expect to see a lot of violence and a lot of gore, and this movie had plenty of both, again, for lack of a better term, this movie was really stabby. I expected to hear that psycho sound effect, any moment. And again, it was just over the top. Now, I said in the climax they got right to the point. They did. But in the climax of the climax, there was a part where I just looked at this and rolled my eyes and had to say, come on, guys. In fact, there were several times in the movie where I said that, keeping with the theme that the whole thing was just overdone. And so, when we left the theater, the crew and I were, in a word, disappointed. However, because they left open the possibility of a Rambo 6, I would really like to see another installment in the series. Perhaps one that again has Sylvester Stallone doing some real acting, and perhaps has antagonists that are more realistic in number and more realistic in motivation. For inspiration, you might look at Clint Eastwood's film The Enforcer or Gary Cooper's film High Noon. But again, in a word, we were disappointed. So that's my take on Rambo 5. If you've seen it and your take on it is different, I'd like to hear about it. And thanks for watching.